Peter, for the introduction. Thank you, the organizers, for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. And I'm completely baffled by Gaia. I think this is the future, and what I'm presenting here is the past. It might be very boring and very nothing, but we have to work together. It's a me.
The guy, yeah.
The guy, yeah. With Gaia. Yeah. So, my name is Philip Jacobs. I'm a European patent attorney. That means I draft patent applications and I try to defend them before the European Patent Office. I did that for several companies, and now I do that for the University of Ghent in a tech transfer style. Tech transfer, what means it in general? It means that we try to bring our university findings within life sciences and other sciences, we try to bring them to industry, or we try to develop them to a product. Oh, I have to go back. Do we own life? Well, that's the big question. My answer would be no, we don't own life. We just use the patent system to try to develop a product. And we'll try to explain this in a little bit more detail. So how to start? Why do we do knowledge transfer? Well, in around 2000, European politicians somewhere in Lisbon decided that we should be knowledge-based. We should have a knowledge-based economy. We would be much better off, our lifestyle would improve, and our economy would be competitive with other parts of the world. That was the whole strategy. That means, knowledge-based means it's driven by innovations, new findings, new things that happen mostly at industry, but 20% of the new findings happen to be found at universities. So public research organizations such as universities, they should transfer their knowledge to the industry. And that's the whole setting of why we do this. What do we need for transferring knowledge? First of all, we need something innovative, an innovative product, an innovative way of doing things, something that adds value. So I should talk to Gaia. And it has to be commercially attractive. If there is no attractiveness, there is no market, nobody really will be willing to invest. But we need something extra. We need to offer something extra. And there come intellectual property into play. Intellectual property rights such as patents. Why? They offer to the patent owner, in this case to the university, a temporary, so it's not lifelong, it's temporary, 20 years, and regional, it depends where you apply for patent applications. So it provides a right, a monopoly to the patent owner. A monopoly, why? Because patent rights can be used by the patent owner, university, to prevent others to commercialize the technology as protected by the patent without his permission. So patent rights doesn't mean you can develop your product. You can just inhibit others to do so. Because you can be inhibited by other rights or by other regulatory factors. Hence, patents may be an incentive to invest in development and commercialization of an innovative technology. Of course, if we go to industry with a patent application and we can offer a 20-year monopoly, that will be an incentive to invest, and so nobody else should be able to copy your investment. So it gives a way of, it's a matter of offering a return on investment. So what do? University of Ghent and other universities, we apply as a first step, and in some cases, not in all cases, depends on the technology, for patents or patent applications on our innovative research findings in order to attract industry and investors who might be able to further develop and commercialize these findings into processes or products. We can do it ourselves as a university, we need other players, and we need to open up, and we use the patent system. So you might as temporary and regionally choose to own life when research findings relate to living things, let's call it that way, nucleic acids, protein cells, organisms, and such as genetically modified plants. But do we have support in the law? Is there any law that allows us to do so? And then we look at the European Patent Convention, which is our standard law book with regard to inventions. What does Article 52 say of the law? Well, the European patents shall be granted for any inventions in all fields of technology, so also in life sciences. So there is a basis there. What does the law tell us more? European patents shall not be granted, even if they are, in respect of inventions inventions where the commercial explanation is contrary to the ordre public or morality. That's the first. So it's like a letter bomb, for example, is not patentable. It's not seen as something moral. Killing embryos, what Dr. Fafayi has been talking about to develop stem cells, if you have to kill embryos, it's not patentable. The assay, but I come back to that. Plant or animal varieties are essentially biological processes for making these plant or animal varieties is not patentable. This is not because of ethical reasons, but because there are other rights on plants and animal varieties, at least within Europe. What is also not patentable, methods for treatment of the human or animal body by surgery or therapy, and diagnostic methods practiced on the human body or animal body. Why is this? Also for ethical reasons. Imagine we have patent protection on methods to cure patients. Doctors would infringe eventually patent applications. Should be not allowed in some instances to practice their essential job. This is not seen as very ethical, at least within Europe. If we refer to the United States, this is patentable. But very important, this provision shall not apply to products in particular substances or compositions for use in any of these products. So the tools you use, the medicaments you use, they are patentable. Otherwise there would be no pharma industry. But then, it has been told before, biotechnology came up in the 70s, the 80s, and there was a heavy discussion what to do with these new biotechnological inventions. We should have more law. And the European Parliament has been discussing this for a long time and came up with a directive which has been implemented in the European patent law and also in the national patent laws. And what is told there? Well, what do we learn from this new law with regard to biotechnological inventions? First of all, biological material which is isolated from its natural environment or produced by means of a technical process, even if it previously occurred in nature, is patentable if it's isolated and if it has a function. Plants or animals are patentable if the technical feasibility of the invention is not confined to a particular plant or animal variety. So that's a strange piece of law. So you can protect and patent plants and animals, but you cannot protect specific plant varieties. But this has to do with genetically modified plants. So if you genetically modify a plant or animal, you can patent this, the assay and the plant itself. Another piece of law is that microbiological or other technical processes or a product obtained by means of such a process other than a plant or animal variety is patentable. So new viruses, new cells, new yeasts varieties are patentable. But is owning life allowable according to European law? What did we learn more about this European directive? First of all, European patents shall not be granted, and this has all to do with ethics, in respect of biotechnological inventions which in particular concern the following. Process for cloning human beings, not perceived as ethical. You cannot patent the process. Processes for modifying the germline genetic identity of human beings. Uses of embryos they are related to for industrial or commercial purposes are not patentable. Processes for modifying the genetic identity of animals which are likely to cause them suffering without substantial medical benefit to man or animal, and also animals resulting from such processes are not patentable. So if you create an animal but it has like and there has been a case like an oncomouse, a mouse which had a huge cancer and was suffering a lot, it was considered, but this is useful to test medical drugs, so it is patentable. But if you create another genetically modified animal and it cannot really be used for human health or whatever, it would be not patentable. What do we know more about the human body? The human body, at various stages of its formation and development, and the simple discovery of one of its elements, including the sequence or partial sequence of the gene, cannot constitute patentable inventions. But this is the principle. But I don't read the word isolated here, and I don't see if we isolate it and we know how to solve a problem with this isolated sequence or piece of human body. Because an element isolated from the human body or otherwise produced by means of a technical process, including the sequence or partial sequence of a gene, may constitute a patentable invention, even if the structure of that element is identical to that of a natural element. So if you isolate it and you know the function, because this has been, that relates to if you know the function, the industrial application of a sequence or a partial sequence of a gene must be disclosed in the patent application. So this tells me that human nucleic acid, human proteins are patentable if you isolate them and if you know the function. But not as such. The principle as such is not so. Thus, what does it mean for the University of Ghent? We are very pragmatic. What do? Ghent files patent applications relating to new and inventive, isolated nucleic acids and proteins having an industrial applications, such as cells, microbes, plants, and animals, products to be used for treating and diagnosing human or animals, processes to produce modified microbes, methods to produce animals or plants which are not essentially biological. All these things, if you consider the law, are patentable, and we take patent applications on that. What do we do then? If we have a patent application, we go to industry, or we try to develop it to a product. We can't do it ourselves. So we go to industry in order to collaborate and to offer a license, just as the previous speaker mentioned. And we consider to create an own spin-off company based on these patent applications, because it offers a monopoly and it attracts investment. And then we notice that the researchers often publish the patent research findings in scientific journals after we patent them, not before, because otherwise we have a problem. And the next speaker will point this out. If we do not find any collaboration here, or we have no license or a spin-off appears not possible, University of Ghent will not further maintain the patent application, and then it becomes publicly available. Then nobody then owns life anymore, and the technology becomes freely available. So we try to use the system not to own it, but to invest and attract investors. Is it always clear-cut? Is the law always clear-cut? Are we always allowed to do what we do now? No, there is still heavy debate. There are still disputes, there are still problems. Some examples taken which might be relevant for today. For example, the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation claims, or had a claim, it's not the exact claim, but it's close to, a method for the maintenance of human embryonic stem cells in undifferentiated state, comprising exposing cells to protein B, and a claim on the cells themselves, the human cells obtainable by the method of claim 1. This was claimed, and a patent application was applied for in Europe. What does the law say? Tells us, first of all, no patents on inventions contrary to order publique or morality, killing embryos, not very ethical, considered by the European Parliament. And so no patents on uses of human embryos. That's what the law tells us. What was decided by the boards of appeal, even the large boards of appeal of the WTO, that human stem cells cultures, which can only be obtained by destroying human embryos, are not patentable. And the University of Wisconsin had described in their patent application, if you use our invention, you have to kill embryos. It was literally stated. So that was the problem, and the patent was not, or the claims were not allowable. So since the claims involve the destruction of human embryos, they cannot be maintained. However, there is a however. Cells obtained from established publicly available cell lines, which are ultimately have been derived from embryos, or reprogrammed adult stem cells, where Dr. Vervaillier has referred to, like the induced pluripotent stem cells, they should be patentable, because you don't need to destroy an embryo for performing these assays and for working with these methods. Another example, Monsanto. Monsanto claims the genetic information coding for herbicide resistance and obtained patent protection in some European countries, but not in Argentina. So they had a protection in Europe, but not in Argentina, because of Argentinian law didn't provide a framework for doing so. What happened? Soy meal, which was derived from these herbicide-resistant soy plants in Argentina, was imported in Europe. So what did Monsanto do? We have patent protection in Europe. You import soy meal that has our genetic information, so we claim you infringe our patents by importing it into Europe. What happened? What does the law tells us? Well, this directive tells us the protection conferred by a patent on a product containing or consisting of genetic information shall extend to all material in which the product is incorporated and in which the genetic information is contained and performs its function. So the question was, soy meal with this DNA in, is this DNA still functional? Is it still giving a herbicide resistance to this soy meal? It was a ridiculous question, and it was answered, no, it has no function anymore. So therefore, the DNA in soy meal does not perform its function, therefore it was considered that there is no infringement. But what does it also tells us, if you have a claim on a piece of DNA, that your absolute protection on all uses, and if this DNA is present in whatever it might be, that your protection is not guaranteed. So it's not because you have a claim on DNA that you have absolute patent protection on all uses and in all instances, which I think personally is a very logical decision. The third one, it has been also referred to in previous talk as an example. The American Civil Liberty Union, which is actually a group of people who are against patenting gene sequences in general, because for all kinds of ethical reasons, they filed a suit against Myriad Genetics, because Myriad Genetics hold patents on two human genes, the breast cancer gene 1 and the breast cancer associated gene 2. Both these genes are associated with breast cancer and ovarian cancer and are used to diagnose these forms of cancers. So there was a complaint against Myriad Genetics. What did a judge somewhere in the Federal District of Southern New York ruled quite recently that human genetic sequences are products of nature and are as such not patentable, which is like within the patent world is kind of a booming statement. Everybody is now, what does that mean? That means that we cannot claim proteins sequences anymore, according to this judge. Now we are awaiting, this ruling has been appealed by Myriad Genetics, and we are awaiting what will happen. But this is just to show that patent law is not very static. It is evolving, it is changing, it has been challenged for lots of ethical reasons. So taken together, what did I try to tell you this couple of minutes? That UGent is mainly involved in research. That's what we do at universities, and education. But that in line with the Lisbon strategy, we try to apply for patents on life to try to produce products. Patent application might attract investors, and European patent law provides a legal framework to protect life. But disputes or interpretations about patented life are still within today's picture, so it's not very static. And that's my small story.